So, how are you guys been? So this is, I think, for undergraduates, this is a day before the spring break, right? Or not spring, what is this? Fall break, in between terms. Right? Yeah. So, so this is, yeah, we have a busy schedule. I think, Hewlin, here we have a few more before the end of the term. So maybe about 3 more before I think we close for the
5 more.
5 more. So, anyways, my name is Srini Reddy. I'm a professor of marketing and I'm the director of the Center for Marketing Excellence. And I think many of you might have actually attended the other sessions before. Yeah, and we continue to do this. And so Hewlin has been extremely busy trying to have these seminars organized. Yeah, so, and we'll continue to do it until the end of March or early part of April, before the end of the year. So anyway, so today we have an exciting speaker. Yeah. Ms. Regan has worked almost 20 years in advertising and 18 years in digital. And she's British. She's moved recently, about 3 years ago, to Singapore and loves it. Okay?
Yes.
So I was actually complaining about the hot and humid weather, but she has no problem. Coming from London, she says this is, every day she's happy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
happy weather.
So she's the managing director of Xaxis.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, Xaxis. And this is one of the WPP companies. And so today she's going to talk about the programmatic world of advertising. Okay, so again, I'm very, very keen on learning about this. Yeah, so we do have a great association. I was telling her about with Omnicom. Yeah, and WPP is the largest, right?
Yes.
Is the largest ad agency in the world, and so it was great to listen to you.
Great, thank you so much. Take some water because I've been speaking for quite a while. Hello everybody, thank you for having me. It's great to see so many people here. Yes, I'm the managing director of Singapore. I've been here for 3 years. I love it here. And rightly so, I've been in advertising for coming up to 20 years. I actually moved into digital. Can you hear me okay? Yeah.
Yes.
I moved into digital in 2000. So I've seen a lot of changes. And actually, one of the reasons I was very excited to talk today about the future of advertising is because I feel like now we're at a point where some of the things that we were talking about back in 2000 are actually only now being realized because of how the technology has moved and developed. And I think that the next 5 years will be hugely exciting and we feel like if we've been growing like this, we'll see some exponential growth happening. So it's very timely to have this conversation, and I'll also be covering off programmatic, simplifying it, debunking some myths, talking about ad fraud and brand safety, and definitely trying not to use too much jargon or acronyms or initialisms that we tend to like to use in programmatic. So this is a great quote from Richard Joyce of Forrester Research. He's talking about why there's people in the industry that still don't believe that programmatic is the biggest shift, the sort of most exciting thing to happen in marketing over the last 25 years. Xaxis, we've been around in APAC for around 4 years, globally for around 4 or 5 years. And what we've always been talking about is all media will be digital and all digital will be programmatic. And really for the first time we're seeing that people understand that's not really a soundbite, that's a reality. Because if we look at the financial industry, for example, back in 2003, only 50% of trade were algorithmic. Whereas now, fast forward to today, and actually it's more than 85%. So we know that this trend is happening. So let's look at some numbers to back that up. So if we look at the US market, which is obviously a mature market for programmatic, it's anticipated to grow 67% year on year, and is actually up, it's the same statistic, weirdly, but it's 67% of all digital spend last year. So that's really very significant. Programmatic video and mobile are obviously big drivers of this. So video growth is 85%, mobile is 77%, which is around $6 billion. Okay, and this year, programmatic is expected to represent 40% of all video and 69% of all mobile spend in 2016. So again, really big, significant numbers that are happening in the US. If we look at this as a vertical, we can see that retail and travel are still very much leading the four here. So they're at around 70%. Again, more impressive numbers. And just to put that into context, if we look at that as a global figure, we're really talking about the ad revenue of sort of something in the region of 560 billion globally. TV spends around 224 billion of that, so TV is still very significant. Digital spend obviously catching up and growing significantly at 170, which is 30% of that. And programmatic's at 16 billion. There's still a lot of growth potential to have there, so it's about 3%. Xaxis as a company, we are at about $1 billion globally. Okay, so we're just over 6% of the total programmatic spend globally. And if we start to look at APAC, the spend in APAC, so APAC is obviously a very interesting region for this because I feel like APAC is very good at leapfrogging. It's kind of leapfrogged over a lot of the display sort of market over the last few years, and obviously it's very much leading in mobile and video. So APAC ad spend is at 160 billion. We can see that the percentage of digital is 33%, so that's at 53 billion. And the programmatic spend is about 5 billion. So it's really, it's a big percentage in APAC. So as I say, we really feel like this market, was slower to come to market in programmatic, but I really feel that that's going to have some significant exponential growth. So Xaxis around 70% of that in the APAC market. And programmatic growth is really starting to outpace digital. So this is showing obviously the programmatic growth versus traditional growth. We can see it's in APAC it's 35% versus 4%. So obviously that's hugely exciting. So enough about the numbers. I just wanted to spend a moment to talk about what is programmatic. It's a really overused term currently, and actually I would really urge you just to replace it with the word automated. So it's really just an automated way of buying media. It can be done either through upfront negotiation, which is the more traditional way, or through real-time bidding. And I think real-time bidding is the part that becomes a little bit more complicated, and that's where the sort of demand-side platforms and the technology layers come in to enable us to access 1 trillion ad impressions at our fingertips. But programmatic itself is just automated. We've just become more automated in how we work. I would also say, for me, when I talk about it, I talk about it as the marriage between technology and data, because over certainly the past 20 years, the technology, or say since 2008, parts of the technology have been there, but they haven't been married together with the data. They haven't been informed by the data that we have available. And so that's really the breakthrough that we're getting at the moment. And for me, it's the very, very exciting part, because both of them together, make it more powerful. So I'm just going to take a break from talking for a moment. I'm going to show you a video which will sum it up in a very succinct way, hopefully.
Context. That's how traditional digital media buying engages prospects. Advertisers pay a premium to publishers for relevance, but that relevance comes with waste in the form of users who don't match an advertiser's target. But what if there was a way for advertisers to reach just the target audience, no matter where they might be? That's where programmatic comes in. But what is programmatic? Quite simply, it's the use of technology to facilitate and automate media buying and applying data to target users based on who they are, whether on-site or across the web. The driver for this revolution is the growing demand for content. The traditional insertion order-based inventory approach is resource-intensive for publishers. Inventory has outpaced their executable demand. To address this, publishers have turned to technology. Publishers make their inventory available on supply-side platforms, or SSPs. This lets publishers sell and manage inventory mechanically, rather than manually. On the buy side, advertisers and agencies employ demand-side platforms, or DSPs. These platforms manage multiple relationships, using technology to automate the purchase of inventory. This relationship between SSPs and DSPs benefits both buyer and seller. The publisher liquidates otherwise unsold ad space. The advertiser gets improved inventory access, more precise targeting of their audience, and lower costs. This arrangement offers an additional solution in the form of ad exchanges. An exchange is like a stock market for ads, in which ad space is bought and sold on impression-by-impression basis. Multiple publishers and SSPs provide this inventory. Multiple advertisers via DSPs bid on this inventory, using what they know about each impression to inform their bids. This real-time bidding, or RTB, allows the market to set the price for each impression. This need for data speaks to the need for buying intelligence. Enter the DMP. The Data Management Platform, or DMP, is a tech platform that collects, integrates, and assesses big data to consistently and accurately inform campaigns and analyze performance. Using a DMP, advertisers can identify who to bid on, how much to bid, and what those users do after an ad is served. This entire circuit, from publisher to exchange and back, takes fractions of a second and doesn't disrupt the user experience. The improved efficiency and targeting accuracy this solution offers is why in 2016, more than 2/3 of all display and mobile ads and half of all video advertising will be bought programmatically. Programmatic's explosive growth is more than just budgetary. The entire spectrum of digital media can be bought programmatically, from premium inventory like high-impact units on prestige publishers, to online video, which can be bought and planned on an audience or a TV extension basis, to mobile media and targeting, social and native advertising, digital radio, digital out-of-home, and even addressable television. In summary, the combination of operational efficiency, targeting effectiveness, and scale makes programmatic an essential part of every advertiser's playbook and makes it a crucial element of your marketing arsenal.
I'll go through some of those elements in a bit more detail, but certainly it's a very 4 minutes to explain the whole of programmatic is more succinct in that video than I can do. So it's kind of nice to have that context all together, and we'll kind of break that down a little bit. So what are the benefits of programmatic? Why is this great happening in programmatic? So it's about accurate targeting, basically pinpointing the right person with the right message at the right time and minimizing the wastage. Okay, because digital is very accountable, but there is still a lot of wastage that goes on. Segmentation, so we're using the data to identify different audiences, and we want to speak to them differently. We want to speak to them differently based on the time of day, or based on the type of device they're consuming, or based on the type of interest and behaviors. We need to scale, so obviously for lots of brands and marketers, they have the ability to scale very quickly, particularly if they find that there's a segment or audience that they maybe haven't accounted for being very receptive to the brand. It's a way that we can scale and grow and very nimbly switch strategies very quickly. And obviously it's automated, so we always talk about technology being really, really good at seeing where there's inefficiencies and then moving in to remove, coming in and sort of replacing what's there and improving those efficiencies. So there's lots of different benefits to buying programmatically at the moment, but they're the main ones. So sort of breaking it down a little bit from what we saw in the video about the old way seems archaic, and you know that's kind of what I knew and how I used to buy. So it certainly seemed very normal at the time. But you know, when I first went into digital, and it seemed hugely exciting to me because I'd been in direct media, and I used to have data delivered to me on magnetic tape, which was essentially like a film reel. So sort of moving from that to floppy disks, which I thought was incredible, to CD-ROMs and then so on. Going into digital, you know, felt like the next frontier. But still, when I was sort of booking a digital sort of campaign on behalf of a client, you know, I had to sort of, you know, make a booking directly with Yahoo to do a homepage takeover for extortionate, you know, amounts of money, and then we had to sort of source the creative, and it was a very lengthy process. You know, but it worked. But obviously, with the proliferation of websites, that just soon became completely untenable because, you know, we've got obviously millions of websites now. So as that grew, we did have networks that moved in, and they sort of carefully curated experiences, travel and lifestyle, demographic information. But again, it was very inefficient because, as we know, and I'll use an example in a minute, sort of some interaction. You know, just because we all travel, it doesn't mean that we're ready to book a holiday tomorrow. So, you know, when we look back at how it used to work, now we have this technology that allows us to plug into not only the demographics and all of the websites are basically available, but also we can go a stage further and actually look at the sort of consumer behaviour and actually what people are doing. Because we may say one thing, we may do another. So it's obviously it's changed a lot. So an example of this, and an example of the wastage, is this is a website, How World Plus, and you know, we may look at this website and think that, okay, this is a female website. You know, I'm a brand. You know, I'm selling you know, something that is female targeted. So you know, I don't want to use programmatic. I want to use this site. I'm just going to spend on this site. But actually, when we look at the demographics and we verify them, we see that 50% of people on this site are actually men. Because actually, when you look into it and you look at the content, it's actually more broad than we think. So there is still a lot of wastage going on. So if we only go by what assumptions and what we think a site may have in terms of demographics, we could really miss out on what we're trying to achieve.
I'm curious, how do you know whether the user becomes male or female? Like, how do you find
So this has been independently verified, this site by ComScore. So there are there are companies that will independently verify them. They basically survey them or verify them in various different ways. So this isn't necessarily us determining. This is one of the ComScore and Nielsen verify these sites. Yeah, kind of surprising. So we'll talk a little bit about audiences. It's kind of why Xaxis was born in a way, and we believe in the audience and building audiences. So if you'll indulge me with some, I won't get anyone to stand up, but with some hand raising. If we talk about audiences, how many of you are students? Because I know there's a real mix. So who's actually students here? So you're an audience, essentially. You're a student audience. So if we take us here as the whole, then obviously if I need something, I have specifically something I want to target students, you're an audience. But what we want to do with programmatic is we want to go further than that. Because if I ask a group of you guys, and you can do it in your head, you don't have to raise your hands for this, but if I ask you, who likes travel, it's kind of like, yeah, I mean, might be a couple of people that don't like to travel, but generally speaking, most people kind of like, we're going on holiday. We like to be on holiday. If I asked how many people have booked a holiday in the last 3 months, yeah, or keep your hand up, drop your hand if you haven't, And then if we start to ask, how many people are going to book a holiday in the next 3 months? Who's left? And then, who likes adventure holidays? And then who's left? And really, that becomes an audience. So how do we get from who likes going on holiday or who likes travel to I'm going to book a holiday to go diving, which I am, and I've never been before. You know, how does someone find out that information about me? Because I think we've all probably experienced, unless we're very, very good at clearing our cookies, we've all experienced that kind of, where we're kind of being followed around the web by something that we, you know, if we do online shopping, I'm always followed by shoes, generally, you know, and it's kind of annoying because I didn't buy these shoes, could you stop following me with them around? Or, you know, you sign up for a credit card, you've got a credit card, and I've just signed up for a new one with UOB, and I'm waiting to get inundated with credit card offers when I've just got the credit card. I don't need a credit card because I've just got one. But it's almost that, you know, because you've been pegged as that interest and that's being collected, it's sort of, she's interested in finance, quick. But it's not actually understanding that I have a credit card, so I don't need another one yet, but definitely maybe in a year's time. So we start to tie in the intent as well to the behaviour. So for me, that gets super exciting, and it's one of the things that we manage in our data management platform. So it's moved on from just, you know, I've looked at a holiday website to actually find out really much more about me and the types of things I might be interested in. And actually, because I went surfing 3 months ago for my holiday, I could be somebody then that's you know, interested in adventure holidays. So the audience building is really about custom building audiences now, not just about travel and finance and, you know, these types of broad buckets. So, you know, I don't know if anyone's seen. I don't know if anyone's seen this slide when we talk about the consumer, but I absolutely love this slide. So it's, you know, it kind of reminds us that it's all about the consumer. It's all about us and what we're doing every day. So this is a kind of snapshot of what we're doing, you know, online at every minute of the day, and this is the type of activity that's happening. So we're consuming so much more media than ever before, and you know, I think it's interesting sometimes to think about our own kind of media journey every day and what we're kind of, how we're exposed to ads, because most of us now, the first thing that we might do when we wake up in the morning is reach for our mobile phones. You know, and I certainly reach my phone, I'll check emails in case any dramas have happened in the night. I may check my Gmail because I'm British, so, you know, I want to see if, you know, mum's been in touch. And then I'll probably go on Facebook. Yes, I admitted it, I probably look at Facebook in the morning, and just the news, and then probably something like the BBC to see, you know, what's going on. So that's all happened probably in the first few minutes of me waking up. Then when I'm getting ready, I might listen to Spotify, you know, with ads, because obviously I'm an advertising person, and we have a radio product with Spotify, so I'm kind of interested to hear what clients are on there. And then I go to work, and I usually drive or get a cab, and so I'm either sort of listening to the radio or I'm plugged into a podcast. And whilst I'm looking out the window and stuck in queues on Orchard Road, I'm obviously seeing some digital out of home. So this is just in the sort of hour and a half of me waking up and getting to work. We have like a huge exposure to advertising. But very little of it resonates with me because I'm really not a morning person. You know, except one particular day when I was sort of stuck in a queue on Orchard Road, and I saw a sort of an advertisement, a sort of video advertisement, digital, for a race. And I kind of, you know, looked out the window and thought, okay, that sounds interesting, but I couldn't hear it because I was in the car. And so I wasn't really getting the impact. And then suddenly on the radio, the advert came on. And I sort of almost fell off my chair. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And I sort of went into the office. I actually did sign up for the race, so it worked, I converted. And I went straight over to our product team and said, you know, this is amazing, you know, are we doing this? How is this happening? And they're kind of like, this is not possible yet, it was a complete coincidence. Okay, so, but you know, it is possible in other mediums because it's now possible for TV to sync ads between it. So satellite links can actually detect if there's an advert for, say, a KFC on the TV. You know, most of us, if an advert comes on to the TV, we're kind of like, you're looking at our iPads or our phone straight away. We can actually sync now to your iPad or your phone with the advert that's on TV. So you look at there and it actually is the same offer. So it will be possible for the radio to do that. It's just that's the kind of next stage in the evolution. I think the scary thing at the moment is, as soon as you see something and you think, that would be cool, it's there. And that would be probably there in a millisecond at the moment. We'll see. Everyone was saying, yeah, but how would it work? Because you listen to the radio in a cab. So I was like, okay, it would need to be on my device, it would need to detect. But anyway, so there, you know, it's about impact, the impact that it's having. And, you know, I just encourage you to just think about your journey every day. I mean, I'm just saying this because I'm in advertising and I want you to look at more ads when you're going around. But yeah, it's an interesting process to go through, definitely. So this kind of brings us back into data. We hear big data a lot. Everyone talks about big data. But I think fast data, deep data, and especially smart data is more interesting. And you know, the video talks a little bit about data management platform. But really, again, just to simplify it further, we think about data management platforms as just a data warehouse. So it's just a storage device for data. You know, a lot of clients talk to us about data management platforms. You know, we need a data management platforms. I know it's a huge thing for a lot of companies in Singapore at the moment, harnessing that data intelligently. You know, a lot of government bodies are doing it. So it's a really big topic at the moment. But essentially, it's a data warehouse. But obviously, what's interesting is what we can do with it. So it's enabling us to, you know, build audience strategies, to plan more efficiently, construct, you know, sort of activate and start to onboard brands' own data to enrich what we're doing from an advertising perspective. So I think this is when it gets very interesting. And for us, because a lot of the data management platforms out there are more about the storage of data, legacy storage of data, we had to actually build our own one for our clients that was just based around targeting and building audiences, because there wasn't really anything like that was specific for what we needed, and that could link very succinctly in with the media process. But obviously now there'll be many more that are popping up. So again, a little break from my voice, and I'm just going to show you a video on DMP.
In today's digitally connected world, consumers are exposed to countless brand messages per day, and it's easy to ignore the noise if the message isn't timely, relevant, and personalized. As the saying goes, you only get one chance at a first impression. So advertisers have to make each brand engagement stand out from the crowd. But how do you know who your target audience is, what attributes define them, where they shop, what products they're looking for, what they'll buy next, and what message they're most likely to respond to? If you want to understand consumers in today's data economy, you need more than a data management platform, or DMP. You need Turbine, Xaxis' data platform for audience intelligence, insights, planning, and activation. Turbine is the industry's leading real-time data platform, unifying consumer data across all addressable channels and devices. Turbine's people-centric identity enables marketers to better understand how consumer propensities differ from screen to screen, and personalize each message by device and format based on their consumers' behavioral patterns. Simply put, Turbine turns raw, disparate consumer data into highly targeted, actionable audience segments that power smarter media activation across all screens. Turbine collects and analyzes 200,000 consumer data points per second and applies advanced statistics and machine learning to know what consumers are doing now and to predict what they'll do next. With its holistic consumer view, Turbine empowers Xaxis to help marketers harness the power of big data, coupled with programmatic media, delivering a strategic advantage for audience planning and media activation.
Sorry about this, it's quite salesy that, and I don't know how many times Turbine was mentioned in that one space, but we do talk about Turbine a lot. But because it's a unique data management platform in the sense that it's a targeting one for media. There's not really any other videos that I can show for that, but it does sort of show how it's uniquely harnessing all of the data and all of these millions and millions of data points, in fractions of a second to kind of reach the right person, the right user, right message, right time. So it's very, very fundamental, a data management platform in terms of what we do for media now. They're absolutely linked together. So just sort of touching on a little bit about data, because there's lots of different types of data, but we talk about it in terms of 3 types. So first-party data is, if there's brands here, it's the brand's data, it's the client data, CRM data. If we tag up a website, for pre-planning before we do a campaign, we're obviously tracking who those people are, and we can use that to lookalike model. We can ingest it into a DMP and start to overlay it with the data that we've got to see who those people are. So that is really the really important kind of data for us, and there's not much of it. And that's really the data we love to get our hands on because it's so powerful, the customer, the client's own data. Second-party data is the data that we generate when we're running campaigns. It's completely separate from the first-party data, which obviously would never be shared. And there's obviously no personally identifiable information in any of the data that we hold, but it's just the general data that we're collecting when we're running campaigns and across publishers and so on. We call that portrait data for ourselves, but obviously anyone running campaigns and using a data management platform would be able to collect data for themselves. And then we have third-party data. So third-party data is really about the data we can buy in to overlay on top of the data we've got. A lot of the data that we might buy is what we would call factual rather than inferred data. So, for example, if you've got a company that has a lot of very key demographic information, so we might be very rich in terms of behaviours, but we don't know if they're male or female. We can make an assumption, but we know where the assumptions get us with this. So it's really about that real data that we can overlay. Another example of that would be income. So we work with LinkedIn. It's very valuable to have that that sort of income level data that we can overlay. In APAC, there's less data providers, so it's more scarce, and it's pretty expensive as well. So there's sort of less sources, and so we buy what we can, and we buy in terms of quality. But I think that's a growth area to have more of that third-party data. It was another reason why it was kind of essential for us to build out our own data and data management platform to just try and build as much data as possible. And this is some examples of the types of data we're talking about. So temporal data, time of day, day of week, technographic information, so the browser and device, and obviously behavioural information is what we can collect. We can collect, so it's it's mainly cookie-based data at the moment, cookie-based data points. And we can store more than 3,000 data points on a single cookie. So obviously, as we're in my day when I'm waking and going onto BBC and Facebook and Spotify, and these are all data points and sort of being collected about me. Recency also is very important. So in our world, everyone does things slightly differently. But if we don't see anyone for outside of 40 days, then they'll go into an inactive category. So it's very much about the frequency as well of someone going in and sort of consuming content. One of the benefits of buying audience rather than on a site-specific basis, it's great to ROI for the advertisers. From a publisher perspective, it gives them more value. I think agencies benefit from the personalization, and the consumers definitely benefit from more relevant advertising. Okay, so not we call the spray and pray approach. I'll touch a little bit on inventory, because I think this is very important, as well as if there's any publishers in the room. The types of inventory that we have available at, brands and markets have available now, which has obviously grown significantly. So we used to just be working in desktop display, now we have mobile and tablet. And so I didn't mention before, going back to when I was talking about click-based targeting, we're obviously very much moving now to next year will be more about device ID targeting and linking the two. Because the problem with cookie-based targeting is that I'm obviously on my, I'm using this at work, but then as soon as I leave work, I'm on my iPhone and I'm on my tablet, and we weren't able to link the two. So that was the kind of big challenge to get, to be able to work cross-device, to make sure that we know that this is me and this is me, and my iPad is me, and it's all one pool of data. This is something we've developed, Facebook have, and Google have as well, because they obviously have that kind of login level data that unifies you across all of your devices. So moving on, obviously mobile and tablet, we have video available. Native advertising is obviously talked about frequently at the moment. Radio is quite new, so we've only launched it this year. Spotify, obviously a big, very big in this space. We know about programmatic search and rich media, but the two kind of interesting ones, the two new ones from a programmatic perspective are digital out of home and addressable TV. So connected TV is really exciting for us, and I think that will be the next one that we really focus on in the next 12 months. We're actually just launching it, but it's very much still in its infancy. And when we talk about inventory, I think it's very important to touch on premium inventory. One of the things we get asked a lot, we were doing a presentation on this about debunking some of the myths of programmatic, and what we were saying is, the opposite of programmatic, is not premium, it's manual. Because the perception is from a lot of agencies and marketers that programmatic is not premium inventory, and that's absolutely untrue. So, as a programmatic company, we can not only plug into exchanges, networks, and so on, but also with all of the local and global inventory sources available. So, the way that we would define premium inventory, the inventory that's owned by all of the top publishers, the domains that we know, Instagram, New York Times, for example, they've been third-party verified, so to your question before, they've been verified by an independent party to say this is what their demographics are made up for. Also the viewability, fraud, and the content type as well. Then there's brand safety metrics, so there's no content on there that clients could, or brands, could be wary of, and that they have the technology in place to block bot traffic. Marketers demand quality inventory now, and I think it's we feel very strongly that it's up to all of us, but it's very much up to us in our position in the programmatic industry to make sure that we keep that premium feel, and that we don't go down the route of just thinking about sort of cheap inventory and cheap clicks. So that's something that's a battle that we fight every day, because obviously there's brands are obviously driven by performance as well, and it looks very attractive when you've got a very low cost someone that's giving you very cheap clicks to maximise your marketing budgets. So we're continuously trying to show the quality and how important it is to have those high viewability metrics, those domains that you know and trust, and proper technology in place. This is the final video. This one's fun.
The viral video. Millions of views, millions in sales. What's their secret? What made them go viral? We did. Introducing Viral, the tool that guarantees you'll go viral. It's simple. Now you can pay for the clicks you need to make your video go viral. We have a vast network of professionals working day and night, constantly clicking on your videos. It began with our intern clicking program, but once we developed the IP propagator, we quickly expanded. Now we outsource to clickers all over the world. We've already expanded into South America, Indonesia, and India. But traditional clicking can only produce so many views. That's where we differentiate ourselves from the rest, providing outreach programs for the elderly.
In an average hour, I can click on 300 videos.
The knuckles, start getting sore, and you gotta do stretch. Ever do this? Oh, I heard a crack.
And our school clicking programs provide valuable learning to kids while giving you valuable clicks.
What's the sticker for?
Doing a good job clicking.
Making a good viral video used to take a lot of work. Now anyone can do it.
We're constantly working on innovative new ideas, helping people go viraler and viraler. And we also have a new app. It's called the CL app, so you can click on the go. Actually, Ian, you've got the clap on your unit, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. So we utilize the product here in the office as well. Once we bypassed the viewing process, our world opened up. Anywhere there's a button, we can be collecting clicks. Elevators, pads, whack-a-mole. A lot of people don't realize that they are clicking. For instance, the button at a crosswalk. When you hit that, you're helping videos to go viral. One day we won't need the viewer.
These days, views are everything. Don't underestimate what a viral video can do for your brand. Success, awards, what are you waiting for? Why hope it'll go viral when you can guarantee it with Viral?
So obviously that's a really fun way to look at it. To look at the scourge of our industry at the moment, which is the botnets and ad fraud. There's part of that that's true in some ways. So if we talk about botnets now, what are they? So it's basically malware that surreptitiously takes over your computers and creates a virtual browser. So it mimics human activity. Okay. So it's software scripts in networks of computers that are controlled by a single entity, and obviously there's technology to stop this, and there's ways that we can prevent it. But when we look at the whack-a-mole, they get stopped and they pop up elsewhere because it's illegal activity at the end of the day. You're always going to get criminals that want to make money in this way, but it is absolutely illegal activity. So ad fraud happens when a controller of a botnet causes the computers in its botnet to serve or click ads. Okay, and then the advertiser is paying for this click, and it's not human traffic. So this is an example. Let's build an ad fraud business. How is it done? Okay, and really it's actually very, very simple because they're just creating websites, they're putting enough content on them that they look like they're legitimate, okay, and then they're obviously able to link up now to the demand-side platforms to get sort of massive scale and reach straight away, and then one day they can be, talking to, we use the term Boris because there's a really, really good article on Bloomberg about this, so I'd urge you to go and have a look at it, about sort of fraudulent traffic, which is very interesting. And Boris is a real guy, and he's got a sort of media business, and is just illegally buying traffic and selling it on. But it's very well written, and just paying very low amounts for fraudulent traffic, and then buying and then selling it on to unsuspecting or suspecting companies. So how do we protect ourselves? How do we protect our clients? How do the marketers protect themselves? And there's really three ways to mitigate the risk. One is in terms of measurement. One is do more direct publisher buys, so obviously not using everything, networks and exchanges for everything, and making sure that we have the proper technology in place to combat them. If you look at how big the problem is and what it means, some reports are saying it's 30 cents on every ad dollar. That's fraudulent, which is horrifying. So that's around $7 billion in fraudulent activity. So obviously the MRC are defining and looking into this, but we very much have to do what we can as well, within our companies as programmatic companies, to make sure that we are never, we're always detecting this, we're always excluding this, and never charging clients for fraudulent inventory. We really, we're really encouraging our clients constantly to look beyond the click, and that's really what it comes down to. So, let's look at viewability, optimizing towards viewability. Let's look at, these more sort of better standards of measurement in terms of engagement. That's why native advertising is obviously so important now, because it's about the relevancy of the message and how we engage within the ad. Time spent on site, for example. If we just go by a click, then it's very hard to detect, how long, if someone's actually seen it. So this is what obviously is happening within the programmatic industry at the moment. And I think technology only gets you so far. So technology can detect this, but you still need people, you still need humans at the end of the day to, at the moment, to make sure that we stamp out 100%. And that's because, a human will detect, if there's a large bank of traffic, of clicks that have been booked in the middle of the night. Somebody will pick up on that, because bots tend to come out at night, like the bogeyman. So we need to make sure that we're continuously, making sure that we go through an inventory hygiene. So as I mentioned, viewability, ad fraud, ad clutter, and just making sure that there's no illegal downloads, adult content, hate speech, that we're just, continuously showering and cleaning all of the data that we use to make sure that it's brand safe. Now I just before I finish, and then we can go to questions, I wanted to cover off relevancy. And this is really about creativity in programmatic, which sometimes are not two words that go so easily together. I think programmatic is around 8 years old, and there hasn't been much conversation around creativity in programmatic. And I really think now this is the next stage of programmatic. So this is the future of what we're doing at the moment. So when I first went into advertising, we were always talking about right message, right person, right time, or now we might say right audience, right message, right time. The technology is there, but how do we link that with the creative? Because if we're still using the same kind of creative techniques, then we can't harness how nimble and powerful and effective programmatic is. So if I take you through, I'll just click straight through to the example, I think. This is a statistic of 47% of agencies published the brand believe programmatic is leading to new forms of creativity and storytelling in advertising. But we need to do more of it. So enter dynamic creative optimization, which is now possible. So this is about programmatic and creative working hand in hand. So the way that this works is, rather than the usual way, or I'll go to that one first, the typical and the linear creative process, we have research, ideation, creativity, and expression. Obviously, when creative agencies are obviously creating a set of digital creatives off the back of this process. Now, if you think about the benefit of programmatic, which can be detecting audiences that we didn't know were important, as well as the ones that we do know are important, how does that work then? Because we might have a completely different target audience that's really responding beautifully to this ad, and we don't have any way to very quickly scale that up. So dynamic creative is basically a way that we can create new images and creatives on the fly. So at a browser level, we can change any part of a creative now dynamically. So it's very simple. A template is designed, and then a creative agency would produce all of the normal assets. But what they might be able to do is to obviously create a wider range of assets, maybe a wider range of text and messaging, a wider range of colors and images, because they're not having to build everything directly into a standard set creative template. And so then the variations of that become limitless. And what's happening is that we are linking that directly to, for instance, an API access directly to data that the client has, so maybe directly to data on the side. So the first instance I saw of this was probably around 2007 or 2008, and we were doing this with an ad serving company, and it was eBay and Dell were really leading the charge with this. So if you saw any ads back in the day for them, eBay were the first guys to start doing this because they wanted to sort of count down to, 10 hours to go, 8 hours to go. So they were using it, and Dell were using it to say 200 laptops left at this price, 199 left. So they were using it, but obviously it was just at a messaging basis, but very, very cutting edge for the, at the time. Now we can change any element within that creative, and I'll just take you through an example of how that works. So in practice, we talked about the travel, the kind of the standard travel advertising before. So this is what a typical travel ad looks like, a generic ad that we've all seen before, which is obviously aimed at a wide range of people. As the data starts to inform who is reacting or responding and who are the audiences that are most relevant for this message, we start to understand that, we can see that this guy's a single guy, or that maybe he's in a relationship. So we start to talk to them a bit more, a bit differently. Interested in art and design, so maybe they react more to a more stimulating visual image. They've recently been to a bike shop, so we make the inference that they're interested in biking. They're adventurers, so maybe we start to see and build up a picture that they've been hiking or surfing, and we can start to talk directly to them on this basis. Okay, and finally, if we're trying to talk to them about a surfing holiday, we can input some temporal information, or you could change this for a data point of what's happening in the news at that time, to make it very, very relevant to them at that time. And suddenly, this ad and this message looks completely different from the first. And this same template could look completely different for every one of us in the room based on what we like. And as I say, it's happening within a fraction of a second. It's not interrupting the user process, and we are all seeing that different ad. So for me, that's the really exciting next part of programmatic. We start really having those conversations about how to right time, right audience, but now right message. So just in summary, we talked about all media will be digital and all digital will be programmatic. That programmatic is simply automation, but now we're talking about fast data, smart data, and deep data, not just big data. Marketers rightly demand quality, and ad fraud is criminal. So we need to really continue to stamp that out. And the age of programmatic creative is finally here. It just needs to be adopted more widely to make sure that we're delivering the right message to the right user at the right time, finally, after 20 years of talking about it. Thank you very much for listening.
Floor is open for questions.
So, with Google Analytics or the stuff, which came first?
Sorry, I beg your pardon.
Google Analytics and AdWords, did that develop from this, or did this develop from that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, you know, Google Analytics and AdWords is sort of, this is the beginning stages of programmatic. You know, we still, when we talk about and we hire people, search and programmatic are very, very similar in process. So, you know, if somebody understands search, they quickly understand programmatic. So, I mean, this started, you know, 10 years ago when, you know, Google are certainly, you know, heavily involved in this space as well. So, you know, they were one of the front runners for sort of launching this way to do things. But obviously, programmatic is then adding the data in, which is obviously a slightly different answer.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, actually the programmatic is not something new. It's 8 years old already.
Yes.
And from client side, what's your view why they are not that keen to move faster to this way? And especially regarding to the inventory, compare with the programmatic with the traditional way to buy the digital media. What do you think about the gap? Because although you said the inventory is not a problem, but from client side, actually one of the barriers maybe is the inventory still is an issue.
Yeah, I mean, I think the inventory is there. Obviously, it's definitely accelerated in you know, maybe the last 5 years, most definitely. I think one of the reservations for advertisers is probably the fault of the programmatic industry, and that's they've seen it as a black box. You know, that well, I give you the spend and I get the result, but what's happening in between? What are you doing with it? And I don't know what it is about. I mean, I being in that sort of digital space for many years, I feel like we really we're very good at overcomplicating it and making it seem. I don't know if it's a kind of way to seem like it's it's very clever. So we're gonna if you look at a lot of websites out there of companies, they make no sense whatsoever. So why do you have to make it so complicated? So I think we've not been very good at just simplifying it for everyone and being very transparent in what we're doing. So as I was saying, one of the things, the next phase of it will be much more transparency. So I think when we can show advertisers that this is exactly where you ran, these are all the domains in their entirety. This is the viewability. So be safe in the knowledge that 70% of your ads were viewed, definitely. And then here are your results as well. I think that will make a lot of advertisers more comfortable with it. But I think they've had reservations about the fact that they can see the end result, but not what's going on here. And if they're brands that very much understand TV or print, it's hard to go from that to not knowing what's going on. So I think there's more work to do in our industry, and we know that.
So, I was wondering, in terms of one of the reasons in terms of adoption is obviously how the results are. So I didn't maybe I missed it, but I didn't hear in terms of, it's all well and good that we have this ability to be able to do this programmatic advertising. Are we actually increasing the effectiveness of it? That means, are they clicking more? Are they buying more because of this, right? Because ultimately, those are the metrics I think with the customers or the clients would be looking at.
Sure.
So, what is your view on
Sure.
that? Yeah.
Yeah, and no, you didn't miss it. It wasn't in that. So, and do you mean in comparison to digital, or in comparison to something like TV or print, or both?
Because anything, right? I mean, if you go to your client and say, hey, this is the way that you should do it, and we have now the ability to be able to identify the customers who probably would be better served by doing this, right? And so we have the ability
Exactly.
to do it. So,
Yes.
because obviously they will actually look at in comparison to what they're doing currently, right?
That's right.
And so, yeah, effectively saying this method would give you better reach, better effectiveness in terms of ultimate conversion of whatever their
Exactly.
method is.
I think this market is very performance driven, definitely. And I guess it depends on what those metrics are in terms of what a company wants to achieve. But certainly, programmatic is very, very effective in comparison to other media because it's so accountable. So the interesting thing is we compare it to, I mean, definitely without doubt, it's much more effective than traditional media, and that's why we're seeing, I think the proof is in the way that the spend is moving, and I think, anyone in this industry is probably aware of that. In terms of against other digital, that's an interesting one, because then you start to have to go into really how everything influences the other one, because you can't really think of it in terms of isolation. So you were mentioning search before. It's not all happening in isolation in a campaign. So if you look at it in a silo and you say, well, my search is more effective because I'm getting this, and I'm using this over here and I'm using this. What you actually, so we run a lot of attribution modeling for clients, which essentially means who's influencing that path of purchase. So in a very simplistic way, and what we were doing 10 years ago for eBay is to say, this is the person that booked the holiday. This person booked the holiday, booked it through a Google search. What was the path before that they looked at? So did they see an ad? And that contributes to that path to purchase. So there's more complexity there in terms of, for particular advertisers and clients, what is more effective. But I think as a broad brushstroke, if we just look at it, for every single client that we've worked with that works on a site-specific basis for their buys, and then moved it to us, or another programmatic player, and works programmatically across them, I'd be very confident saying that there's a huge impact and definitely more effectiveness, definitely more results. Because if you think about it, you buy directly with just a site by itself. If it's not working, it's difficult to. But what we're doing is we're buying across it all holistically. We're seeing where there's conversions, and we're diving in and we're aiming for those. And then we're seeing who's converting, and then we're looking for more of those. And this is all happening and being optimized, within fractions of a second. So with that in mind, it is always going to be more effective, because you're able to detect and optimize and move budget and shape budgets much more easily.
I was hoping that there will be some white papers where you can demonstrate that, right? I mean, I think intuitively
we've got so many case studies.
Okay, very good. So it makes intuitive sense.
Provide them, definitely.
Now, one other question I have is, I know that Xaxis is one of the many players in this field. Just by experience, I know that not all of the things that I see in terms of programmatic advertising is what I say. I'm going to say effective, but because there are things that are following me. For example, ads which should have been stopped 3 months ago.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So that means you're unnecessarily wasting things on a customer who's probably moved on, right?
Yeah.
So there are some which essentially are very, very good. They know exactly my behavior online, and they basically give up and then move on, right? So what I'm seeing is that whoever is doing this programmatic advertising for clients essentially are not the same. I mean, they're basically, some are more effective than the others.
Yeah.
So is that your view as well? And then how does Xaxis, stack up with the other competing firms?
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, it's kind of, I think there's an element of blame there with some programmatic companies, but it's also having brands are also involved by having unrealistic expectations of what can be achieved through it. So, we use the example if, you smack someone around the head long enough, they're going to do it in the end, it's kind of because they'll get sick of it. So, there's an approach used by some companies that use very aggressive retargeting methods to obviously drive conversions, that it's kind of, you just bombard people, okay? And this is really not good for the industry, because obviously we feel that the consumer has a lot, it's in the hands of the consumer now, it's in the control of the consumer, because we can just go and delete our cookies, we can just go and switch off ads if we want to now. So the more of that happens, the more likely people are to just shy away from ads, and it's going to have a very negative impact on the industry. It does happen, but again, as I say, the brands themselves, a lot of, not a lot of them, some of those types of ads are actually brands themselves that are running their own programmatic. Okay, so it's not just third-party programmatic companies that are doing that method. It's about just thinking about sales and not thinking about the consumer. So, I think most of the programmatic companies, most of the big players in the market, think holistically about the consumer and know that if we pummel something to death, it's not going to be good in the long run.
Ad blockers.
Yes.
What do we do about it?
I wish I knew at the moment. I mean, it's as I say, the reins are being given to the consumer. I don't see that that's necessarily going to change. I think we need to educate more. We need to empower. We need to make sure that we're not, sort of abusing the access to the consumer that we have. But it's a real challenge for the industry, definitely. I mean, something like, as with all of these things, they happen, and everyone says, it's the end of advertising, and then something else happens. So native advertising is a pure example of the way that is sort of combating that in real time because it's so relevant and so in keeping with the message. So you'll see many programmatic companies are sort of going into the native advertising. We've acquired a company, Blister, so we have a native advertising business now. Yahoo, AOL have one. Facebook obviously do a lot of that. So there is other ways, but it does impact the industry, definitely. I don't have the answer to that, though, I'm afraid.
How do you think programmatic increases subscribers?
I think for us, not at all, because we don't have any personally identifiable information at all. It's completely stripped out. So I think obviously the ones that are usually in the press is Google and probably Facebook because it's a login. So they have that information there. It's just they're not using it for the advertising, but people get uncomfortable about the fact that they have it. They know who that person is. They're just not. Whereas we don't know who that person is. It's stripped out before it comes to us, basically. At the moment, it's not encroaching because they're proving that they're not using it in that way. But I think the question is going to get continuously asked again and again because people are very uncomfortable about that. That Chinese wall there. Yeah.
How effective is this if nowadays we clear out cookies after every session? Like how is the deep data stored in terms of individualized consumer targeting?
Sorry, so just repeat the question again, sorry?
So how, I just want to know more about the technology. So how is the individualized targeting data stored? Because I was assuming it stores on cookies, right?
Yes.
So what happens if after every session the user actually clears his cookies?
Fine, but they literally need to be so. They can block the ads, but if they're just clearing cookies, most of us might do it periodically. But as soon as you do anything online again, the cookie gets dropped again, right? And then it starts to build from there. So if you're continuously taking it back to zero again,
so it refreshes every session.
It's refreshing. So you'd have to clear it and then never go on it again. I laugh at my friends when they're saying, I'm getting followed around with this, I hate this ad. Why do they think this is me? And I say, well, I don't know. I don't know if this is us that's sending you it. But clear your cookies, and then if you don't get it anymore, then you are being targeted as this demographic. If you still get it, it's just random. It's just random chance, basically. So it's a good thing to test out. You might be blaming us for it, but actually, it's just a random chance that you're getting that particular one. It's not highly targeted, is what I'm saying. So, don't clear your cookies.
David, if you do log into Facebook or Google, then clearing the cookies is not going to do any good.
Then what, sorry?
I mean, clearing cookies is not going to do anything.
No, exactly. And actually, to be honest, that's most of the complaints that I get about sort of, Big Brother watching me is usually on Google and Facebook, because they have very specific information about those users. Obviously, they know a lot about those users, obviously, because they're a publisher, it's a login site.
Okay, excellent. Yeah. Thank you so much for the wonderful talk. So now we are a little bit hot on programmatic work. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
So some of you might be shy in asking the questions from the floor, but I've asked if you can stick around for a few minutes. And so, yeah, you can actually come up and ask questions much more closely.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.